Hey everybody, it's Merrick coming at you not live, and today I wanted to take a look at some of my favorite droids from the Star Wars Saga. Oh, I'll move him over there. And that is the Astromech Droid. So, what exactly is an Astromech Droid, and how does it sort of translate to Star Wars action figures and whatnot? Well, Astromech Droids are, as such, R2-D2's an Astromech Droid, boom, 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 and there are a ton of other Astromech Droids that have different designations, different models, etc., etc. So, sort of going on with that, I might as well show you. Everybody knows R2-D2. He's the classic, he's the original, and yeah, he's what makes up the basis for Astromech Droids. However, in the first movie, well, the first movie that was released, Episode 4, there was also R5-D4. R5-D4 was another Astromech, R5 series unit, and was basically there as an example of how the models aren't exactly done. And there were a bunch of other R5s, R2s, and there were a few others. So that's why I decided to put this sort of video together. Just talk about a bit of the action figures and to talk about some of the history of the droids. So, over here, I kind of got a lineup of some of the models of the ones I got. And this is an example. So, they went from R1 to R9. And, for the most part, this is how in order it went. So, this big bastard here, this is a R1 unit. This one, in particular, was also introduced in Episode 4. You see him being sold with a bunch of the other droids, and actually he makes a really nice piece on the shelf with the rest of these guys. Historically, they were used for codes, sort of hyperspace lane codes on bigger ships. Come on, focus on it, guy. Come on, there we go. And they were basically just big, sort of dumb, not really mechanically inclined droids that weren't made for fixing ships, just for sort of hyperspace route charting and whatnot. So this one right here, one would call this, this is just a concept art for R2-D2 turned into a Astromech Droid. Well, you are right. However, they did reuse the concept art, as with most Legends content did, to make this. And this is the P2 Astromech Droid. While it doesn't have the similar sort of design aspects of the R series, well, for the most part, has the same head, little thing. It's a little shorter, a little dumber, and it's covered in frickin' arms and stuff, and I believe they were also used for mining. But they weren't exactly the best droids to have around, and that would sort of culminate with the R2 series. And this is an example that I'd like to show off, because I love this guy's colors. This is the R2. And we also know R2. Now, these were some of the most reliable droids on the market, made by Industrial Automaton, and they were very, very useful all the way up to probably about like the Legacy era and the Legends continuity. Now, the next droid on the market here, R3s. R3s are known for their see-through dome here, and that is not a design flaw. That was actually intentionally done to show off their computer brain. And basically, a lot of people was, so they just kind of painted over the head and whatnot here. But this one is these R3 units are my personal favorite. But even so, and I don't know why, I just love the fact that they have a see-through head and you can just see all like the cool little wiring and detail inside. Kind of makes it feel about, like look at all of our cool mechanical parts. It makes it feel a little more real and stuff. And honestly, I wish there were a lot more action figures of R3s, but this is the best we got for now. At least one of them. But yeah, now moving on to the R3, we got the R4 units. So this is your standard sort of R4 unit, and this was one modified for the Clone Wars here. So R4s are known as agromechs, both known for being used on planets, agricultural stuff, and as well as space. Now, the reason why they kind of got rid of this dome and put these domes on top is for more tactical operations, as these guys would be more susceptible to getting, blasted in the head and whatnot. So, pointing this out, I would have to say that these guys are pretty cool too. A lot of these guys come in some colors, and we actually have a few of the color-coded ones here. This one belongs to Kit Fisto. This one belonged to Obi-Wan. This one belonged to both Aayla Secura and Obi-Wan. This one belonged to Mace Windu. And this one belonged to Plo Koon. At least in the Legends continuity. Without the Clone Wars TV series and whatnot. But yeah. And then you can basically see a ton of these guys all over the place. There's a couple in Episode 4. I believe the Rebellion used them with this dome head and this dome head. Look, a lot of the Clone Wars stuff is basically, you know, oh yeah, recycle of droids and whatnot. I'll bring those over. There was also a different model of R4 released at the time that was basically on a repulsor lift body. And that was kind of used for V-Wing starfighters. Last but not least, in terms of the action figures that I own, this is a R5 unit. R5s were supposed to be more advanced, but they turned out to be a bad business decision, all wrapped up in one little droid body here. In fact, you can actually send these back if you get one, and they would have sent you an R2 unit as a complimentary. So, R5 units, they're known for blowing their motivators, as with R5-D4 back there. But even so, I like it, and this one has nice color schemes too. I just love the aesthetics of all the droids, they're really nice. Also, it should be noted that in the Disney canon, we had BB-8 here, and BB units. And I believe this is the only action figure they ever made of BB-8, which was released a few times, but I'm going to get into the action figure aspect right now. So, why would I enjoy such a simple little action figure such as this? Well, I don't know. It's the colors, it's everything about them. They got nice designs. They're basically little frickin', or like, well, I should say, big Swiss Army knives within a droid body. Just wrapped up in nice colors and whatnot. And there's a whole lot of them. And I've seen years ago that people would display like their entire Astromech collection, and I don't know, like I've seen a lot of customs, and that trend kind of stopped way back when, and no one kind of showed them off like years ago, but this is the sort of updated collection. Not much is there now, and I do have a lot of like doubles and whatnot, which is kind of the nature of this sort of thing, and they released a ton of these guys again and again for some reason. But we're gonna go into the sort of like what over the years have the action figures sort of became, like how they developed and where they are now. So it should be noted first off that R2 here also came in a lot of different variations. So some had little play features. You see here they had his like little jets exposed on the arms there. And he, you know, that's basically all he could do. He's also got a little scuff and burn from battle. This one had electronics in it, but that don't work too well anymore. Doesn't even work at all. I think I have to change the battery. I hate to open that battery pack. We had this really nice damaged one from Episode 4, which is pretty cool. And, whoop, he falls over easy because I can, you know, I like to display him in that sort of format where he's like that. And fine, I'll let him sleep. And last but not least, we have the sort of standard, and I'm going to talk about like what the sort of standard design is. So moving on here, this is the sort of design aspects of Astromech Droids here. So the original Kenner, which I don't have any of, had all the similar body structure. Basically a hollow cylindrical body with a movable head, and they didn't come with a third leg. However, if you bought the sort of Jawa, I believe droid set or something like that, you got an R2 with a middle leg, and you could take them apart and put them together to make a giant droid at the end of the sort of catalog they gave you, I think, with it or something like that. But I don't have any of those, unfortunately, so we can only really go on from the modern ones. So, kind of going forward with like Power of the Force 2, I think this was still Kenner, or like this was going into Hasbro. So this is like the older, like some of the oldest figures that we got. This had electronics in it, and I believe you can push the, you know, little centerpiece there, and it'll light up and make noises. And he had Magnus in the feet, which you can move him around on the little platform there. So now this kind of droid became the basis for a ton of others, as I think this might have been the first one that had the movable leg in and out and whatnot, as you can see here. But going on forward, just to talk about the designs, they kind of reused the singular non-moving leg for a few of the other droids as mostly as the electronic ones. You can't even move his head. It's that sort of, I believe the speaker came out of the top, so that's with the hole in there. But for the most part, Astromech Droids were basically like this. Movable legs here. You can move these about, and I know this one's kind of like, because he's been kind of like that, but the most defining feature was this. You can push the leg in and out, and I can't necessarily do that with one hand because I got to hold the camera and whatnot. You can pull the leg in and out, and honestly, that was one of the best designs I could ever imagine for these types of droids. And you can move the head on its own, and you get that nice, satisfying click when you do. These were really nice figures. And unfortunately, though, that wasn't the case. They didn't keep up with that design for some reason. So weirdly enough, with Astromech, they had to constantly reinvent the wheel, and I don't understand why. I can kind of understand why. But it's hard to go from, I don't want to say that this is perfection, because there's some paint flaws and whatnot on some of them. This is not a good example of that. But the next best idea they had, I'm just going to lay him down too. The next best idea they had was, you can turn the head, but when you do that, you basically cause the leg to go inside of it, and you'd have to, like, turn that, leaving the head all awkwardly turned, so you'd have to, like, turn it again in order to get this thing. Leaving in fear of this probably breaking and whatnot. So, I don't understand why they did that. But I think they also used the same sort of aspect for a similar design where, I think this might have been the Clone Wars one. Yeah, I think they started this one. You can pop open the back plate and a little thing would come out. A rope with a, sort of like a lasso. I think it was to sort of simulate that one scene in episode 2. You'd have to turn the head in order to reel that back in and whatnot. And that was kind of shitty, and I don't really feel like digging up some of my Clone Wars ones because I don't want to talk about the Clone Wars figures because they all kind of suck. So, moving forward though, I think this might have been around the same time. So all the R5s were based off of the R5D4 mold, and I think this was either around the same time or this came after. So, this sort of feels like the start of the Build-A-Droid thing here, because the legs would then not be removable, or you can remove them, but, you know, it'd be essentially losing parts if you got lost the thing. And every time you turn the head, the motivator would pop out, kind of like R5D4. Okay, focus, please. Win. Can I turn this guy's head? Yeah, there we go. Look at that. Turn his head a little bit, that pops out. Now, this would also cause problems because, well, if you want to get the motivator to look like it popped out at the right angle, or just, you know, you have to have the head turned at a weird, awkward angle, which, yeah, is a little obnoxious, but it kind of makes you live in fear of this being stuck in some sort of way, and I feel bad for kind of using it on this guy because this guy's a rare piece, and I don't want him to, like, fuck up with that. That's the thing. I'm going to get to talk about that later, too. So then, later on down the line, we got this sort of thing. This is the build... Oh, no. This is a similar sort of aspect. If you turn the head on this guy... Let me get that to happen. Yeah. You cause a periscope to pop out. Now, the periscope feature, I don't particularly care for neither. Once again, I don't understand why they had to keep reinventing the wheel. Just for all these figures here. But the reason why I have a problem with this periscope function is because, well, it's not as bad. It's just like the motivator, but it's not as bad. But then later on, I might as well use him for this example. This was the best thing sort of going forward here. This is part of the Build-A-Droid line. The Build-A-Droids were sort of droid pieces that came with action figures and whatnot. And you would buy them all up, and you'd assemble the droid, and you get a lot of cool little droids out of that. So, majority of them were Astromech Droids, and I unfortunately only really have this guy to talk about here. So, kind of going forward-ish, this was going to be the mainstay sort of thing. And even when Disney started to produce the droid figures and whatnot, we got more of them in the same sort of style, but a little bit cheaper. Like, this guy's head just feels like ass, and I kind of always have him in the background. Plus, I don't even know what type of Astromech. This is probably like something from the Canon that I don't even know. Maybe it's a Canon R9 or something. Hell, you could even probably put this thing in the back. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't have many. They made like all the types of droids, R7s, R8s, and I unfortunately don't have any of those kind of finalized. I really only have like 2 Build-A-Droids made, which kind of sucks, but the aftermarket's a bitch, and I'll get into that later, which probably might come in right now. So, from the Build-A-Droid line, this is 2016. Now, I don't know what the idea behind this was. I'm going to grab another droid for an example here, because this is a neat, someone said neat idea, but no, this ain't a neat idea. So, this is the dumb thing. As you see, this guy's got a hole in his head, right? And his leg is in, plus it's got a stupid peg in there. Oh god, look at that serial number. They did not care what this said. So, this guy is a 2016 era droid, and this guy came in like a 5-pack. Now, I don't have the full 5-pack, but I definitely don't want to buy this guy. So, as you can see, he's got similar articulation, but no clicking. And he's got a giant hole in his head. Now, to explain that, let me show you with this guy. Remember that periscope function? Yeah. Now when you push the third leg in, that pops out. And then that, like, goes back in. Don't get me wrong, it's an intuitive design, but it sacrifices so much of what made Astromech Droids so great in terms of action figures. When the periscope is in, you can't turn the head at all. Which I guess is fine for this guy, because he's a little bartender droid that works for Jabba and whatnot. But it just ruins the whole damn figure, because, well, in order to have the piece not go in, it's going to be an empty hole in the head for him. And you can't exactly have him be in this sort of in charge mode here, or else, you know, he's got to have the periscope out, or you got to remove it. And the problem this causes is that, like, you can lose the periscope, which is only going to cause problem for people on the secondary market. But, you know, the toy companies don't care as long as the product's out. Like, really shitty design, man. Now, I should also point this out, too. Like, this ain't really a complaint on this figure, but a lot of the new Disney designs haven't been so great, I should point out. BB-8 kind of makes a little bit of sense here, but I need to just talk about this 1 second. So even back when they were releasing this, they never released him solo, because look at him. Barely any articulation, is just a movable head and whatnot. So you can kind of get just the bare minimum there. And you can even turn it. So no satisfying click similar to like these guys. No sort of little thingamabob or whatever about him. So, this guy would come with other figures, and his quality would either be outstanding or shit. So, his ball form here, his little ball body, was either hollow, or, if you're lucky like me, you got a weighted one, and I don't know how they weighted it down, but, yeah, it was basically kind of a gamble whether you get a good one or not. So, once again, the quality of the action figures has gone down over the years, and I don't understand why. But then again, they have been ignoring the 3 1/4 inch line forever. Now, I'm just going to do a quick little overview here. I want to talk about some of my favorites, but yeah, nice to point some out. But yeah, no. Chronologically, these all guys right here were what helped the princess and her crew escape the Trade Federation blockade. I think there was one more, but he's somewhere around here. Oh, wait, I think it's this guy, actually. Yeah, there he is. It was a red guy. So 2 red ones, and then this one was stupid, because they released him, and him together, but not him. So you got all of R2's brothers except him. You had to find him separate, and I really like this one. It's the colors and whatnot. Plus, it's an R5 during, like, episode 1, so, which chronologically makes no sense, though. This might have been an R5 unit that had R2 parts in it, or like a test run or something. You never know. Anyway, the royal thing of Naboo. But yeah, like, it's all the color schemes, it's all the nice little details and whatnot that I just enjoy. Like the highly modifiable, the all sort of thing. It's just cool to see that we got a lot of love for these types of droids going on and forward and whatnot. And we also got like some big ones like this guy here, but that was only really like a singular pack or whatever. But yeah, and as you know, I would have to argue that this might be one of the largest Astromech Droids collection I've seen, even though there's like a few doubles and I don't have many of the Build-A-Droids in it. But to sort of end this off, I want to just point out some of my favorites here. This guy, I don't know why, but he was a part of Star Tours back when that was a thing. And I don't know, I just love the design. It's like the little broken bits, the little weird stick-out eyes. Because I think this was like an R5 when I didn't have an R5, and this coincidentally is also named R5D4, as a lot of the droids were. I love this guy's paint job. Like, really nice. It feels like a custom, it looks like a custom, it even feels like, the texture-wise of the plastic, feels like somebody painted over him, which is really cool. So it's kind of got that, like, graffitied car look and feel to him, I guess. Another one of my favorites is basically all of, like, the episode 3 Astromech Droids, the R4s. Really nice color schemes, really like that. R3 units, which I already pointed out. I fucking love it. And this one specifically is also from the Star Tours ride. This is actually, I think, one of the first R3 units, now that I think about it. He's a little cheaply made, but I don't know. He's got a lot of nice detail inside. As you can see, there's about 2 doubles. I just try to get as many R3s as possible. I'm not even sure that they made R3s for the Build-A-Droid line. And we got another green guy. I love the green colors. I also like the R1. The R1's pretty fun to look at. Funny, big boy, that type of shit. And then this guy, I like the head. This guy's nice color scheme. And these guys, basically. And for sentimental sort of oh yeah, Whistler's also pretty cool. I like Whistler. He belongs to Core and Horn, actually. But for, like, at least sentimental value figures here, this is the one that I kind of grew up with. This was released with Episode 2. And it's the same mold as that. And I don't know. It just reminds me of, like, simpler times. And I actually do have one that works, but I keep him in a box. And then I also like this R2, just for the virtue of it being the sort of super articulated one. I guess that's the best way you could put it, because you can move the leg in. This is the only R2 that I ever found that had that feature. It's weird, actually, now that I think about it. Also, I love this one just by virtue of it being the damaged R2. Look at all that nice detail. I really love Astromech Droids, and I really hope that there's going to be some sort of quality control in the future, especially after this mess. And if you're wondering, yes, I lost that periscope piece. And the worst part about losing that periscope piece, I lost it in the process of setting all this up for this video. So, hopefully I find it on the table somewhere or whatnot. But I don't know how well the future of, like, Astromech Droid figures is going to go. And one other one I should note was I did want to get Chopper from the Rebels series. I actually like his design. But every figure that I've seen of it that wasn't the 6-inch never had his fucking little leg. And that pissed me off to no end. So I never bought one. I don't know how well that's changed. I might have to look up reviews to see if he eventually made one, and I gotta track it down. And it's probably going to be expensive as fuck, more than likely, because Star Wars has that premium price tag. Despite, you know, people being disillusioned by it. But yeah, so anyway, guys, thank you guys for joining me down this little trek of memory lane here. And remember, as always, be yourselves, remember, make a like a hi, make a hidey ho, mo make a chai, make a mo, make a hey, Jingle Bell, come quatch, Michiri Changa. That's the secret word of the day. Alright, guys, catch you later. Merrick out. See ya!